Pledge allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ms. Vasquez, please call the roll.
Chair Hayek,
Present.
Vice Chair Callahan,
Present.
Commissioner Emel,
Present.
Commissioner Orozco,
Present.
and Commissioner Pletcher is absent.
Thank you. Can you make the public comments announcement, please?
This is a time and place for public comments. Registration for public comments is available for those wishing to address the Traffic Commission regarding items on the agenda or on a subject within the city's jurisdiction. Speakers for a specific agenda item shall be called and heard during that specific item. All remarks should be addressed to the Traffic Commission as a whole. Speakers are requested to state their name and community of residence for the record. Under state law, public comment matters may not be considered by the Traffic Commission unless listed on the agenda, but may be referred to the city engineer for administrative follow-up. No individuals have requested to speak on this item, and pursuant to Traffic Commission standards, public comment speakers are allowed 3 minutes for the record. Also, please silence all cell phones during the meeting and remember to mute your microphones when you are not speaking.
Thank you. So one public speaker, are we doing that now? After. Okay, so no public speakers. Summary notes from June 26, 2024 meeting. Are there any comments on the summary notes by the commission? Okay, no comments. Let's move on to item number 6, engineer report. All right, so before we hear the report, I just want to clarify the commission's role for this item. The city speed hump policies based on objective standards directly related to roadway conditions per section B3 of the policy. Speed hump requests must meet all the items in section A to be eligible for installation. Traffic and Transportation Advisory Committee may recommend the request for speed humps to be presented to City Council if it meets the speed hump policy. And with that being said, may we please request Associate Engineer Bradley Ackert to present our first engineer report, which is an action item.
Thank you, Chair, and good evening. My name is Bradley Ackert, and tonight I'm going to be discussing the speed hump request on Montgomery Road. I'd like to start off by showing you a map to help you get your bearings. Here is a vicinity map. Montgomery Road is just east of the intersection of Moore Park Road and Jans Road. Here's a location map. This petition zone is on Montgomery Road between Briarcliff Road and Jans Road. I want to give you an idea of the street profile of Montgomery Road. Montgomery Road is a residential street that is 26 feet wide with a speed limit of 25 miles an hour. There's a speed limit sign present at the north end of the street to notify drivers of the speed limit as they enter from Jans Road. The street has a north-south alignment and provides access to a few internal neighborhood streets. This is a picture from the north end towards Jans Road. Montgomery Road is relatively flat and straight. You can see all the way to Briarcliff Road from the Jans Road side. Here's another picture from the south side towards Briarcliff Road. Same thing, relatively flat and straight. You can see all the way to Jans Road. Now I'd like to discuss some of the measurable speed hump eligibility criteria, which are established by the City Council. There are a total of 10 criteria that must be met, and here are 4 measurable criteria that we look at. Speed humps can only be installed on roads that meet the California Vehicle Code definition of a residential street and have a speed limit of 25 miles an hour. Also, the road length must be a minimum of a quarter mile. If the road meets those requirements, this process begins when a neighborhood shows support of installing speed humps. A neighborhood shows support by circulating a petition and having it signed by at least 75% of the affected property owners. Once the petition is received by city staff, a traffic study is conducted, which requires at least 2,000 vehicles per day, and at least 75% of those vehicles need to be traveling over 25 miles an hour. As I mentioned, these are the key measurable criteria that we focus on. The resolution also establishes that if certain road conditions exist, the minimum volume can be lowered to 1,500 vehicles per day. 3 of those road conditions exist on Montgomery Road, which are: there are no streetlights, there are no sidewalks, and the road width is less than 36 feet. Since those 3 road conditions exist, the minimum volume for this petition is going to be 1,500 vehicles per day. I want to provide you with some background info for the Montgomery Road petition. The petition was received in May 2024 with a 78% support rate from the affected property owners. School was already on summer break when the petition was received. We do not perform traffic counts during summer break when traffic conditions are lower than normal. We waited to perform the speed and volume study until school was back in session after Labor Day. The traffic data was collected September 10th through 22nd, and we averaged the 13 days of data excluding weekends. The petitioners provided an input of the placement of the machine counter. Here's a map showing the placement of the counter on Montgomery Road. In addition to the criteria established by City Council, we also checked the collision history on Montgomery Road. Since January 1st, 2020, there has not been a reported collision on this section of Montgomery Road. Let's look at the data collected on Montgomery Road. The recorded daily traffic is 756 vehicles per day. The prevailing speed, 85th percentile, is 28 miles per hour. The prevailing speeds on similar residential streets throughout the city generally range from 33 to 35 miles an hour. The prevailing speeds on Montgomery Road are significantly lower than similar residential streets. These prevailing speeds also match other streets in the city where we have installed 3-inch tall speed cushions. If speed cushions or speed humps were to be installed on Montgomery Road, little to no change would be expected. Comparing this data with the speed hump criteria, we see that not all 10 criteria have been met. The traffic volume does not exceed 1,500 vehicles per day, and only 42% of the drivers exceed 25 miles an hour. In advance of this meeting, public outreach was performed. A total of 141 meeting notifications were sent to the fronting residents, including those who live on adjacent streets that could serve as a traffic diversion with the installation of speed humps. Prior to this meeting, 2 residents provided feedback, and they're both in opposition of the installation. The email was provided to the traffic commissioners before the meeting, and City Engineer Haydari notified me that he received a call from another resident. Staff recommendation is in the staff report and includes the following. Consider the staff report, receive public input, and deny the petition request for the installation of speed humps as the current roadway conditions fail to meet the city speed hump policy numeric standards. As mentioned in the staff report, the 2022 City Council speed hump policy is based on objective standards directly related to roadway characteristics, vehicle speed, and volume counts. Per Section B3 of the policy, speed hump requests must meet all the items in Section A in order to be eligible for installation. TTAC may recommend the request for speed humps to be presented to City Council if it meets the speed hump policy. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. There's not public comment yet? Okay. Does the commission have any questions for staff?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Ackert, for the record, can you explain how the counters work?
Absolutely. So they're pneumatic systems, so they're using pulses of air. So what we do is we lay two hoses out in the street, and we we know the distance. We're putting them at 2 feet apart. So I'm out there measuring at 3 different locations on the tubes, make sure they're at 2 feet apart, and we also we nail them down to the street, and we also tape them down so we maintain that 2 feet line all the way across. So when the cars drive over those hoses, they send pulses of air to the machine. And then based on how fast those 2 pulses of air come to the machine, it can calculate the instantaneous velocity of the cars.
Thank you. So I noted in your presentation that the counters were out between September 10th and September 22. Is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct.
And are those counters active for 24-hour periods, meaning like there's no point during the day which they turn off? They're always on?
That is correct.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Anyone else? Just a quick question. One of the slides on the top, which showing some of the data, said Hendricks Ave. Is that a typo? I just want to make sure we're looking at the right data. You back up a few slides. The collision history.
You are correct. That is a typo, but I redid the search before we came in here, and it is Montgomery Road.
Okay. No other questions. I want to give the public an opportunity to speak on this item before the commission begins its discussion, and I believe we have one speaker. Is that correct?
Correct. We have one individual speaker in-house. Speakers are allowed 3 minutes. For the record, we've also received one written statement, which was given to the commission prior to the meeting.
Okay, thank you. James Scott will be our first speaker.
Mr. Scott, just to explain to you, there's going to be a counter. You'll see a black box right there in front of you. Okay.
My question to you is the difference between a speed hump, a speed lump. There are 3 different types mentioned in our different reports. I'm just curious what a speed lump is.
A speed lump is another term for a speed hump or a speed cushion. So it's just another name for it.
It's not a third.
It's not a third.
Thank you. James Scott, City of Thousand Oaks. I agreed to co-sponsor this with Jan, the neighbor across the street. The counters were put in front of their house. A few things to be brought. Essentially, my request at this point is that Montgomery Road be looked at exactly as Colgate Road was looked at, and that the same criteria be used to apply. Colgate had 200 less vehicles per day. Colgate received a big overflow from Waverly Road, and Colgate now has 2 speed bumps that effectively create a traffic buffer that allow them to have a quiet and peaceful neighborhood. In our neighborhood, while we didn't meet the criteria as specified, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. The street's 26 feet across, and we've had, and it's noted by the counters, people hitting 50 to 55 in a small residential zone with limited vision. We have an 89-year-old pedestrian that uses the street, and as well, that street supports Glenwood Elementary, whereby you have 10 to 15 students a day competing with traffic at 45 to 50 miles an hour. If it's 2025, that's fine, I could see it. But when it gets up to 35, 55, it's hairy. And I've witnessed no less than 3 times where I would have liked to have had a slower speed enforced. With all that being said, I think this is a great opportunity for us to look at this street. I would like to thank Bradley and Mr. Mashinko. They created a great report. They've been very helpful, very professional. And any measures that you can take to slow that traffic down would be welcomed. I'll succeed.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Is there any response from staff based on the speaker's comments?
Okay, yeah, I think the comment was probably related to Colgate Road that speaker brought up. It's Colgate is on the other side of Jans Road on the stretch that parallels Montgomery Road to the west, and that was speed humps were installed on Colgate Road as a result of traffic diversion from Montgomery to Colgate. So that was that was not evaluated based on a petition we received for speed humps. It was more of a mitigation measure to mitigate the traffic that diverted from Montgomery Road to Colgate, which is the first street immediately west of Montgomery Road. So I believe the traffic volume on that street is rather low. It's about 550 vehicles per day. And I believe because of the traffic, or after the speed humps that were installed on Montgomery Road, I believe the traffic volume had doubled.
Thank you. Commissioners have any questions for staff?
Mr. Mishiko, when were the speed humps installed on Colgate?
I have record here that shows they were installed in 1997.
So that was under the prior iteration of the resolution that we're using now?
No, well, as I mentioned, that wasn't really evaluated based on a speed hump petition. That was more of a result of a before and after study when the speed humps were installed on Montgomery Road north of Jan's. So there's a few streets that are like that, where speed humps were installed on a certain street, and then we do before and after study. So an after study showed that there was traffic diversion to Colgate in this instance, and City Council, we reported the findings to City Council, and Council found it was appropriate to install speed humps on Colgate to mitigate the diversion traffic that, went on to Colgate.
Even though the warrants for the speed humps weren't met. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
I just want to clarify. When you say diversion, you mean cut through? Is that what you're talking about? So cars were cutting through onto the road?
Yeah, they were
Okay.
they were using Colgate to bypass the two speed humps that they would have traveled on Montgomery Road.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions, commissioners? Okay, at this point, I'll close this item to public comments and open up for discussion among the commissioners on the report that we just heard on Montgomery Road in relation to the approved city council speed hump policy. As mentioned earlier, the speed hump request must meet all items in order to be eligible for installation. If the commission denies this request, the speed hump review process is terminated unless an appeal to the city council is filed within 14 calendar days after the date of the denial, along with the current appeal fee. I just want to be clear, and you correct me if I'm wrong. So a yes vote on this will concur with the city's recommendation and deny the petition. A no vote does not concur with the city's decision and essentially agrees with the petitioner. And if it's a yes vote, then the petitioners have the right, then they would have to follow the appeal process, which is 14 days to appeal. And if it's a no vote, then it would go to city council for consideration, because then the commission agrees with the petitioner. I just want to get both sides of it so everybody is clear.
Okay, excuse me. So assuming that the motion is to deny the petition, which is recommended by staff, then a yes vote would be a denial of the request for the speed hump, right? And if that's the case, then the speed hump request would be over unless there was an appeal to the city council.
And if it's a no vote, then the commission is agreeing with the petitioner. And then I'm just looking at the resolution that's here, and it says if the Transportation Traffic Advisory Commission recommends, then it goes to the city council. Is that right? I just want to follow the path depending on what the decision is, so the petitioners are aware.
Sure, if there's a motion to approve the petition, then that passes, then it would move on to the city council for their approval.
Okay. But it would have to be a separate motion? It's not just a simple no vote on this motion?
Well, it all depends on what the initial motion of the commission is. So if the commission is to deny the request, that would have to fail, and then there would be another motion to approve the request to send it to the city council.
Okay. Everybody clear on that? Thank you. Okay. All right, now I'll turn it over to the commission for discussion. Who would like to start? Anyone?
Thank you, Chair. This is not unlike petitions that we've seen in the past for speed humps, and not unlike so many of those other petitions, the warrants and the resolution are not all satisfied. Specifically, at least the ones that we know of that are before us now are the measurable criteria, right? The vehicle counts, the speed, and while the commission and even the staff may be sympathetic to the residents that have to live on the street and from time to time deal with people who just can't control their speed, our function is not to write the policy or create the policy or change the policy. And so our hands are somewhat bound by the resolution. And so when we ask our questions of the staff to do a little deeper dive into how the numbers and the criteria, the recorded criteria were obtained, we're really just trying to make sure that all the I's were dotted and the T's were crossed, make sure that everything was done appropriately. But it just seems to me that we don't really have the discretion to approve the petition. So those are my initial thoughts.
Anyone else? Okay, no further discussion. So then I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I can make a motion.
Commissioner Emo?
Thank you. So I will move that the commission consider this report, receive the public input, and deny the petition request for the installation of speed humps as the current roadway conditions fail to meet the city's speed hump policy numeric standards.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Chair Hayek,
Yes.
Vice Chair Callahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Emel,
Yes.
Commissioner Orozco.
Yes.
Okay. Motion carries 4-0. Commissioner Pletcher is absent.
Thank you. So we'll move on to item number 7, status report of prior commission recommendations. There are none. On number 8, commission referrals, there are none. Number 9, work program and commission schedule. Any questions for staff on that? Seeing no questions, move on to number 10. Any commission comments, discussion, any general comments or discussion from the commissioners? Commissioner Emil?
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is addressed to the staff. Councilman Mikey Taylor reached out to me to communicate, I don't know if you want to call it a complaint, more of a grievance, I think, about there's a small neighborhood off of Lindero Canyon, and I'm looking for the message now. It's right across the street from a new water district project. I'm trying to think of the name of this. Is it Blackbird? Yes, Blackbird. Thank you. And so the complaint is that there is excessive speed on Lindero. This is kind of a T intersection, right, where you have traffic ingress and egress from Blackbird onto Lindero, and right across the way from the Blackbird entrance or exit is the entrance to this water project. And so you have big trucks coming and leaving the project site. There's excessive speed on Lindero, and I think people in this neighborhood, or at least one person, is finding it very difficult and maybe somewhat dangerous at times to make a left-hand turn out of Blackbird to head north on Lindero. And so I think the inquiry is whether there's any type of appropriate traffic or speed mitigation device that can be installed at that location, either in the form of a stop sign. There is a stop sign at Blackbird where you come out onto Lindero, but Lindero is just wide open. So I wanted to relate that grievance to staff and ask staff to maybe look into that.
Yeah, we'll be glad to take a look at the intersection, make observations, and then put a little summary together on the next agenda, let you know what we did.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay. Anyone else? I want to just comment as a suggestion, kind of to, I don't know if it goes to staff or city council, but I think we have to visit at some point this commission's role in what we do. Kind of to Commissioner Immel's point, we see these things that come up before the commission, but we don't have the authority to go against whatever the ordinances are. If something doesn't meet the criteria, it doesn't meet the criteria. I understand the value of bringing things to the traffic commission so the public can comment on it and have an opportunity to comment on it. But if we don't have the authority to go against whatever the ordinance is, I just question like the true role and authority of the commission outside of the ability to seek public input. That would just be my suggestion as to moving forward, what the role of this commission is. And maybe it's evolved over the years and things were different in the past. But sometimes I find it confusing as to what our role is, because if we just have to go with what the ordinance is, something doesn't meet the criteria, it doesn't meet the criteria. So I don't know why it would come to us if it doesn't meet the criteria, other than just the public input piece of it. And that would just be my comment on it. Thank you. Okay, consideration, possible cancellation of regular traffic commission meeting scheduled for November 27, 2024 and December 25th. Obviously, December 25th is Christmas, and the 27th is the day before my birthday, and I can understand why nobody wants to meet. So, any discussion on that by the commissioners?
No.
If not, I'll entertain a motion to cancel the meeting scheduled for November 27 and December 25.
I'll make a motion to cancel the meetings scheduled for November 27th and December 25th.
Thank you. Any discussion? Take the roll, please.
Chair Hayek,
Yes.
Vice Chair Callahan,
Yes.
Commissioner Immel,
Yes.
Commissioner Orozco.
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 4-0. Again, Commissioner Pletcher is absent.
Thank you. And we are at item number 12, which is adjournment. And we thank you for attending and have a good night.